Whether they're in it for the money, fame, or their inner nerd, you would think that pretty much any actor would jump at the chance to be included in the MCU. However, there have been a great deal of actors who have worked with Marvel and had it be much less than a dream come true, but actually a walking nightmare. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some actors who genuinely hated their time working with Marvel. Stick around, because some of the names on this list will shock you. First, Jessica Alba almost quit acting after her time in Marvel. While the original Fantastic Four films are nobody's favorite movies, they are genuinely hated by one of its biggest stars, Jessica Alba, who portrayed Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman in Fantastic Four and its sequel, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, came dangerously close to quitting acting after her time on these Marvel films. According to Jessica, the director of Rise of the Silver Surfer, Tim Story, asked Jessica to cry pretty during her character's death scene. Her death scene. Why would you want somebody to look sexy when they are literally dying? Well, apparently Alba did not cry pretty enough for Story, and he told her that they could just add CGI tears in during post-production. This caused Alba to question her acting chops, because she was told that she was doing something wrong. Hey, Tim Story, have you watched the film? Nothing about it is good. Not a single scene of this film is good. And I'll tell you what the entire set of the film should have told you. Jessica Alba looking sexy while she literally dies would not have saved this film. It was garbage and was irredeemable. Stop pushing actors to do stupid things and then blame the actor for it. Moreover, Jessica has gone on record saying that her time working for Marvel was the low point of her career. This is really sad to hear, and it is equally sad that we are 14 years into the MCU and we still do not have a good version of the Fantastic Four. How much longer do we have to wait? I guess we'll hopefully find out soon, and maybe now that the multiverse is open in the MCU, we will even possibly see Jessica Alba reprise her role as Sue Storm for a brief cameo. But obviously nothing is set in stone. Next, Robin Williams was not a fan of his time working with Marvel Studios. I'm sure that most of you watching this didn't even know that the late and great Robin Williams was even involved with Marvel at one point during his illustrious career, but he was signed on for a film long before the MCU. That's right, Robin Williams was actually originally signed on to play the voice of Howard the Duck in George Lucas's version of Howard the Duck film. While the film was a disaster in every conceivable way, Robin Williams may have made the film at least watchable if he stayed on the project. However, unbeknownst to Williams, Lucas and the rest of the production team had already shot all of the speaking scenes that Howard had prior to Williams entering the recording booth, which meant that Williams was handcuffed into saying his lines in the exact way they were written, or else the flapping bill wouldn't line up with the audio from Williams. Well, if any of you have seen a Robin Williams performance, you would know that Williams does not exactly stick to the script and that he loves to add improvised lines while he is in the zone. Well, answer this question. How do you improvise lines when your move has already been moved for you? The answer is, you can't. You have to stay within the rigid lines provided for you, which of course is not Williams' cup of tea. So he left the project just days after signing on. Would Williams have made Howard the Duck a watchable film? I guess we'll never truly know, but I can heavily speculate that he wouldn't have. And that is nothing against Robin Williams. I love Robin Williams. However, Howard the Duck is a garbage film for garbage people. A lady tries to get intimate with a duck, and it's the duck that has to say no. Think about it. A woman tries to have intimate relations with a duck. Yeah, I would hate it too. Up next, Terrence Howard does not hold his time with the MCU highly at all. Terrence Howard was given an opportunity that not very many actors got, and it was starring in the first ever MCU film. Obviously, we know that his time in the MCU never surpassed that original film in Iron Man. But what was it that caused him to cut his time in the superhero universe short? Well, according to Terrence Howard, he was given a sizably smaller chunk of change for his role as Rhodey/War Machine, compared to Robert Downey Jr., who, played Iron Man in the film called Iron Man. Well, that didn't exactly sit right with Howard, and he threatened to leave the project altogether. RDJ called Howard later that day and told him that if you stick around for this film and it takes off, we can shoot a sequel where you will make way more money. Well, that convinced Howard to stick around and play the sidekick in Iron Man. RDJ was right, and Iron Man was a success with fans, critics, and in terms of box office numbers. The film film raked in cash, and it looked like it would do the same thing once again in its sequel. However, when it came time to discuss salary for Iron Man 2, it looked like Howard's salary would not be getting the promised bump that RDJ told him about. This caused Howard to not only leave the project and the MCU, it forced him to hate RDJ for many years after. They have since resolved their issues, and obviously it is not RDJ's fault that he makes more money playing Iron Man in the films literally titled Iron Man. I'm sure Howard does not regret his decision in public, but I'm sure in his most private moments he can't help but think of the opportunity he turned down because of a salary dispute. If he had only known what was to come for the MCU and his character of Rhodey War Machine, maybe then the salary would not have been such a big deal. Thor: The Dark World was a disaster for all involved. It is impossible for me to discuss actors and directors who hated working for Marvel without mentioning Thor: The Dark World, TTDW, because it seemingly was awful for all involved. While Chris Hemsworth is obviously still one of the biggest faces in the MCU, he went on recording saying that his time on TTDW was the worst time he had playing Thor, and that it was the main reason behind completely changing Thor's character for Thor Ragnarok. Additionally, TTDW was the reason that Natalie Portman, who played Jane Foster in the Thor franchise, literally quit following production of this film. She stated that she only stuck around due to her contractual obligations. While she declined to return to the franchise in Thor Ragnarok, she met with director Taika Waititi and agreed to return to the MCU for Thor: Love and Thunder. But hilariously, we still aren't finished talking about actors who hated working on TTDW. So strap yourself in because we still have a few names to go over. Patty Jenkins, the director of Wonder Woman, films in the DCEU, was originally slated to take the helm on TTDW, but quit soon after seeing the script, saying that she did not believe that she could make a good movie out of the script that they were planning on doing, and that the flop of the film was not only inevitable, but it would have been perceived as her fault if she went through with it. Unfortunately, she is probably right. If Jenkins had taken the helm, she would have been the first female director in the MCU, and it would have been on what is universally agreed upon as the worst entry into the MCU. Do you seriously believe that MCU fanboys wouldn't have had a field day at Patty Jenkins' expense? Of course they would have blamed her for making a bad superhero film because she is a woman. Luckily, she had the foresight to avoid this bullet and blew us all away with Wonder Woman. But somehow we still aren't done with the angry people that worked on this garbage film. The director that did eventually agree to take on this train wreck was Alan Taylor, and he said that the experience was something that he wouldn't wish upon his worst enemy. Doesn't really get worse than that, right? According to Taylor, he was given absolute freedom while shooting, but the film was completely changed around during post-production and editing. Long story short, this is not the film that Alan Taylor imagined, and although his name is on the project, don't blame him. It truly is not his fault. On top of Taylor was Idris Elba, a fan favorite in the MCU who dons the golden helmet of Heimdall, who said that going from playing Nelson Mandela to working on TTDW was like torture. Why did this movie happen? Like, for real, how did this get greenlit? And finally, we reach our last disgruntled actor to appear in this crap fest of a film. The flattest villain of all time, the dark elf Malekith himself, actor Christopher Eccleston, said that working on this film was like a gun in your mouth. That's all we have for you guys today on the channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in.